This episode of Steve's Outdoor Adventures was brought to you by the Adventure Armory. Rifle, scope, and ammo packages for hunters. If you watched last week's program, then you saw Travis Price complete a 2-year quest to kill a 6-point bull in the backcountry of western Wyoming.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Good shoot, man.
Yeah.
And as soon as he wrapped up that hunt, he hit the road, driving from Big Piney across the state to Buffalo, Wyoming, on the eastern slope of the Bighorn Mountains. Travis is meeting up with his father, Steve Price, and the outfitter that they're hunting with that week. Steve Price has a pronghorn antelope license. Travis has a deer license, and the season is well underway. But before they can go into the field, they take the time to go out to the rifle range and check the zero on their rifles.
What do you call that? B14 HMR.
It's not an ideal day to shoot with a strong crosswind and blowing snow, but they take a few shots to confirm the rifles are still properly sighted in. Travis is shooting an Adventure Armory custom Bergara B14 Alaskan Hunter, chambered in .300 Winchester Magnum and topped with the Burst Eliminator 3 laser scope, and the rifle is shooting hand-loaded custom Pendleton ammunition. His father, Steve Price, is shooting another Adventure Armory custom Bergara B14 HMR with Cerakote Elite finish, chambered in 6.5 Creedmoor, and topped with the Burst 4-20 Veracity first focal plane scope and equipped with a custom turret for longer range shooting. The custom turret was cut to the exact ballistics of the rifle and hand-loaded Pendleton ammunition. This rifle, while not lightweight, is the perfect gun for a truck-based pronghorn antelope hunt. This week's gun segment was sponsored by Barry's VersaCradle. Whether we're at the bench or at the range, it's the perfect tool for every job.
Well, we just arrived at the hunt location, and before we even stopped the vehicle, we spotted 3 bucks 20 yards off the road and got out and took a look at them, and they kind of headed up towards this other group, and 1 buck in there is real nice. My dad here's got an antelope tag, so he's in for a good treat this time.
The great thing about pronghorn antelope is that there's lots of them. If you blow a stalk, it's not a big deal. You drive over the next ridge, and it's not long before you're on another herd of them. This segment of Steve's Outdoor Adventures has been sponsored by Bergara Rifles, a passion for precision, every barrel, every rifle. This segment of Steve's Outdoor Adventures is brought to you by Pendleton Ammunition and our new line of TSS turkey loads. After a few blown stalks, Steve Price understands that this property is loaded with antelope. And after cruising around and glassing a few more bunches of antelope, it isn't long before they spot another group of antelope with a promising buck.
This is one we're after.
This herd of antelope was not far from a road, and they had a hilltop to hide their approach. And after a short stalk, Steve Price slid into place and got set up to take the shot. They ranged the buck at 367 yards. He turned the turret to the distance, set his parallax focus, and squeezed the trigger.
Dropped him.
That's how we do it.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Thank you. That was a good hit. That was 300.
So this hunt was very special for me personally. You know, now that I'm in the industry, my dad and I don't get a chance to hunt as much as we used to, and this particular week I was able to invite him, and just to be able to spend time with him in the field was just a very special moment. And he made just an amazing shot, 367 yards with a Bergara rifle that he's never used before. Got into position, one shot, one kill. I was very proud of him from that, and just reminded me of what a great hunter he is.
Whitetail deer are the most commonly hunted animal in the world, and each season, millions of hunters hit the woods with the high hopes of getting a shot at one of the elusive mature bucks. In the east and southeastern states, hunters often hunt from tree stands. In Texas, there are elevated blinds or shooting houses. And across the Midwest, tree stands and ground blinds are often used. Bottom line, hunters usually set up somewhere and let whitetail come to them. And we do this out west. In fact, on my only real stand hunt, I was put in a ground blind, perfectly placed on an alfalfa field where over 200 deer came to feed every evening. And I shot a great buck on the first night of my hunt.
Yes, I got the big 9 that the guides were talking about. He came down off the hill. We watched him all the way in. He's down. He's down. Yes. Doesn't get better than that. Wyoming whitetails. Let's see what we got.
And in Montana, we didn't have a ground blind or a tree stand, but we had patterned a great big buck and a bunch of other deer that were leaving the fields and going down to a timbered river bottom. We patterned those deer, figured out where they were going to leave the timber and head back to the field, and we ambushed them from an elevated position as they entered a funnel. Once again, I shot a great Montana whitetail.
Look at that buck.
Far your best whitetail.
But the most common way that we hunt whitetail out west is just like mule deer, by cruising in four-wheel drive trucks and covering a lot of this big wide open country, glassing river bottoms and hillsides and just agricultural fields and anywhere else that these deer are going to be hanging out. And then once we spot those deer, we put together a plan for a stalk to get within rifle range, and hopefully it all works out before the deer spook. And now with his dad tagged out, it's Travis's turn. And his license is valid for either a whitetail or a mule deer. And while the area has a lot of both, it's Travis's goal to come home with a big Wyoming whitetail. This segment of Steve's Outdoor Adventures has been sponsored by Marathon Seat Covers. We've got you covered. This segment of Steve's Outdoor Adventures has been sponsored by Pendleton Ammunition. Loading bullets, one round at a time.
This particular hunt this week is very vehicle based. You spend a lot of time navigating the private lands by 4x4 truck with your guide, and really what you're doing is looking for that buck that you want to spot up and put a stalk on.
This area of Wyoming is loaded with both species of deer. There's a lot of mule deer, there's a lot of whitetail, and they overlap in their terrains. And in the last 2 weeks of October, the season is open for both species of animals. And while Travis is focused on a big whitetail, a great big mule deer buck just might change his mind.
This morning I began deer hunting as I have a deer tag. We're in northern Wyoming, and this morning we started at an alfalfa field, and it was just unbelievable how many animals we saw. I mean, hundreds, literally. Antelope, whitetail, mule deer. I'm targeting a whitetail. We saw a pretty nice buck this morning that kind of fed over this dross. We're on the backside of it. We're gonna go up there and set up and see if we can find him. Nice buck.
After cruising a lot of country and looking at a lot of deer, they parked the vehicle and started hiking into some of the places that you just can't see from the road. And they started glassing these pockets and picking out even more deer.
Do is go sit up by the gravel pit in the notch.
Stopped. By the end of the day, I had looked over a lot of bucks, both whitetail and mule deer. But I just didn't see the one I wanted to cut my tag on. But I was definitely excited for the next day based on how many deer I saw.
This segment of Steve's Outdoor Adventures has been sponsored by Burris Optics. Find what matters. This segment is sponsored by Adventure Armory. Rifle, scope, and ammunition packages shipped, ready to shoot. If you'd like to book this week's adventure for yourself, give our office a call. We will gladly take your calls, answer your questions, and help you book the hunting or fishing adventure of a lifetime.
The next morning, the plan was to set up above an area where we had seen some bucks go to bed the day before. The idea being that they would feed back up to us as the sun came up. This was a great vantage point, but the majority of the deer crossed into the neighboring property just outside of rifle range. And the deer that did get inside rifle range were not shooter bucks and blew out when they circled downwind of us. Well, we were posted up on a knob just above me overlooking a travel corridor this morning, and nothing came through, but Bob has just spotted a shooter on a field that's down in the valley, so we're gonna go around here and get picked up and get over there and see if we can get on him and get a shot. Pretty exciting. It was still early, so we headed to another pasture and immediately spotted a good buck. In fact, there were multiple shooter bucks in the pasture headed into the bedding area. We watched them from a distance. And then my camera operator, Raymond, and I moved in to get set up on a knob that had a vantage point that looked into several spots where we might get a shot at a buck, while my dad and our guide waited on the hilltop and continued to glass deer.
They ran into a lot of deer in that pasture, and the stalk was slow. They had to be patient and stay in the bottom. And after a few hours, they made it to their spot. And then they waited. And waited. And finally, the deer started feeding out of the cover. About a half hour before dark, one of the bucks that they had seen from a distance finally fed out into the open. Travis got into position and took aim. Using the Eliminator 3 laser scope, he was able to get a range of 407 yards and a lit aiming point.
Nice. Waited all day. 407 yards. Oh man.
With the buck down, Steve Price and their guide hiked down off the hill and joined Travis and Raymond for the walk out to the big buck and recover him in the field.
Good job, buddy. Good shot. Goodness, man, I saw him. Son, way to go, buddy. All right. Oh, I saw him pile up before he heard the gun go off. Yeah, he dropped and then we heard him. Wow.
This was a wonderful Wyoming whitetail buck, a trophy by anyone's standards, and taken by spot and stock. A job well done. Hunting isn't just a sport, it's a tradition. Passed down from this father to his son, Travis and his dad were able to share that special week of hunting and create memories that are never forgotten. Those magical moments will be relived at dinner tables for years to come, and hopefully passed on to the next generation.
Spotted them from up on the hill, and Raymond kind of helped me find them in the scope, and 407 yards, one shot, one kill. That's a great deer.
There have been as many great stories and hunting memories created in whitetail camps as there have been elk camps all across this great nation. And we invite you to join us in one of our hunting camps and start making some memories of your own. In fact, if you'd like to book one of these Wyoming whitetail hunts or any of our other great hunting and fishing adventures, give our office a call. We're always available to take your calls, answer your questions, and help you book the hunting or fishing adventure of a lifetime. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this week's show. But please remember to join us again next week when we bring you another exciting episode of Steve's Outdoor Adventures.